Mediate listeners, are we recording now?
Yes.
How are the audio levels?
I mean, Tony's going to have to speak up a bit. It's just amusing because he is the closest. Like,
Hello.
He's the other side of the room, and he comes out louder than Tony.
Ethan.
I have a loud voice.
Hello and welcome to the Mediate podcast 2018, which is not the year. It's 2008.
2018 minus 10.
That's this year.
I meant to say 2008.
What a shame.
No, 2008 is this year, Tony. We've been going back in time.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
not been,
Well,
you've not been reading the item descriptions.
you've not been doing the extra missions with fucking Jenkins to get the story.
Have you not been collecting the yellow packages?
How many did you guys collect?
Got.
Did you get all 30?
I got the 3 out of 4.
I think I got less than 3.
I think I got 5, maybe.
I think I got 4. I think.
I
Yeah.
never,
Two
I
on
never
one mission.
intentionally got them. I always got
Yeah.
them when I went up on the wrong.
Yeah,
place.
it's like going, hey, look, it's like the symbol that is like the Mirror's Edge symbol. That's probably the direction I need to head. Oh, it's a dead end with a yellow pointless thing.
But every collectible in every game is pointless.
Not the strawberries in Celeste, which... No, the cassettes in Celeste, which let you unlock fucking the final mission thing.
What about the Riddler's trophies, which I have recently been told
In
need
Celeste.
to fight the Riddler?
The Riddler's
Celeste is a
trophies,
nice crossover
You need
with
to
Mirror's
get
Edge.
the ending of the game. Mirror's Edge had a better ending because you got all the bags. That'd be incredible.
So, I guess we should start with how we normally start, which is the honourable mentions, right?
So Tony, what would you have picked?
Well,
This
I mean,
brilliant year of films and games.
I really like the things I picked in the end, to be honest. I mean, I know looking at the 2008, there was a lot of stiff competition from things such as Kung Fu Panda and Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Harmony, which are both bangers. But no, my honourable mention is Pokemon Platinum, because it's the best version of that trilogy. Obviously, Nintendo do their DLC, but not DLC, where they release a game again for more money, but people were fine with it because it's Nintendo. And it improves on it a lot, adds more Pokemon. It's just the best version of a good gen. I don't know, on the DS. Grew up with it, play it again. It's pretty solid. What about everyone else?
So I would have picked the film In Bruges, which is it's just a great underappreciated film. I think just such a beautiful setting that sort of is a, I don't know, removed from what the actual film was about. It's well done. It's funny. Has some great characters.
Ethan.
My honourable mention is The Hurt Locker, which is a passive war film. I say passive because a lot of conventional war films are very violent and bloody, and there's a lot of action and guns and weapons and things like that. But this is a very kind of more tense, suspense-filled war film because it follows the day-to-day lives of a bomb disposal squad during the Iraqi war. It's really well acted. It's a very harsh and gritty film. All of the explosives seem completely and utterly realistic. And yeah, it's just got some fantastic scenes in it, and I would suggest watching it if you're looking for a great modern war film to watch.
It's got the best serial-related scene in any film.
It's got the best what?
Serial-related scene.
It's got the best illegal DVD related scene as well.
Yes, get in. There's a lot of good films in 2008, but I've had to go for a game because, you know, we've got to get that 50-50 split of films and games. Even though way more good films came out in 2008.
Got to get that diversity higher.
Exactly. So I picked the token game, Gears of War 2, which is the best of that trilogy, which I think, much like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, needed to be sort of celebrated. But instead of just lauding the third one like Lord of the Rings did, I'm going to pick the best one, which is number 2. Which most of the game takes place inside like a giant worm thingy. I think it's Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
You're the one that's picked it.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
No, basically
Yeah.
you go underground, not a worm. You do fight a big worm, but
And there is a bit when you're inside and have to
you're
kill
inside.
the heart.
But yeah, you go down underground, you fight the locust, where they come from, which is the ground. So yeah,
It's sinkholes.
I think there's an attack on a castle, which is probably the best part of the game. I haven't played it in like 2-3 years. I'm trying to remember it here. I just remember I really like it. The emotional moments are emotional, mainly because it doesn't play Mad World this time, and it does in the first and the third one. And yeah, I think it's probably the best one. Although they've all got their like good moments, they've all got their shit moments. But yeah, Gears of War 2.
I'm glad no one picked The Dark Knight.
I mean, picking The Dark Knight is too easy because everyone knows it's like, oh, it's so dark, so gritty. Superhero film that we've never seen.
Just be glad that Anil Sandhu's not here because he would have picked that in like.
Cut that moment out.
Are we seriously not allowed to mention people that we know?
It's just like it won't make sense to anyone else.
Yeah, but
Cut this all out, Harry.
They can build an image of Anil Sandhu.
Guys, let's be quiet so Harry can cut from this point. Don't never do that again, Ethan.
I will. Just going to say that right now.
Now we go into your roundup section.
Yes.
I'm aware of how Mediate goes.
You
I
are.
don't know. I don't listen to it.
Yeah, so this is my TV roundup where I pick a TV series that I feel is worth mentioning from the year. And for this year, it's Being Human, the UK version. I've not seen the American one, but my feeling is it's worse. Just
I didn't know
as
that was
a
an
base.
American one.
It's an American version of like every British TV show.
Yeah, and my rule of thumb is it's worse. But yeah, no.
Apart from The
That's
Office, which
exactly
is
what I
like
had in
equal
mind.
quality.
Yeah. Anyway, so it follows a vampire, a werewolf, and a ghost all living in one house, just trying to be human.
This is what we do in the shadows.
Basically, yeah. It's got a comedy, but also some really. It's the best done werewolf vampire ghost thing that I've seen done. It's got.
Have you seen any of them?
Well, I mean,
I've seen that format too many times.
Well, no, just not
It's
as
been
in
overdone.
living in one house, but as in the thing with the vampire world. I think this has one of the best vampire worlds, and things that have werewolves. I think this has some of the best werewolves of any sort of vaguely supernatural thing like that. This is the one that does it really well and does it like just focusing on the people trying to live their daily lives and also the world around it.
You're just selling me what we do in the shadows now.
Yeah. I think it's not quite as funny or quirky as that. It's a bit more serious at moments, but it's got Adrian Turner before he took off his top, being a brilliant vampire. It's got Russell Tovey, who just is a werewolf. It's got, I feel bad, I don't know the female actress. I don't think she's done much else.
It's not the actress who plays Moneypenny, is it? That's someone different, right? Am I just being a bit racist here? I'm confusing two black people who look similar but actually look nothing alike.
Alright, I'm gonna check.
Yeah,
I'm
alright.
gonna cut that out if that's not true.
But yes.
Moneypenny's
We're just going to end up with a podcast where you just cut out everything that I say because it's just.
That's what the Ethan special was. You don't realise we uploaded 15 seconds of silence because you're a terrible human being.
No, it's not Naomi Harris.
Is it Noemi Rapeface instead?
Anyway.
Silence.
But yes, it also has.
So much of this is going to be so incoherent.
So after that,
Should we upload a podcast where we just cut out everything Ethan says?
It's just massive like gaps or it just doesn't make
We
sense.
start having chats with Ethan and we start like responding to what he's saying to us. Segregating him.
The difference though is that
Silence.
what we do in the shadows is what, 3 vampires, and this is what, 3 different races, isn't it, Johnny?
Yeah. So it's
So what we do in the
It is-
shadows is about werewolves and vampires.
Is
Yeah,
it?
but
I thought
it's-
it was
Yeah.
just oh, okay.
it's
Yeah,
not.
but is there a ghost, Harry? That's the difference.
Yeah, there's no ghost.
Yeah,
that's
this.
what sells it.
Fuck off, ghost.
4-3, what a great film.
Yeah. Well, this
Can't wait for it to come out.
It's like my TV podcast.
this film's this TV series has the best performance by Jason Watkins that I've ever seen. Just because he is just so terrifying. He's the leader of the vampires, and he is just chilling because he's got that kind of charm, but also a feeling that he is just going to rip out your throat. It's so brilliantly done. It's difficult to explain. The characters are well thought out, have all their moments. I mean, it begins to jump the shark near the end. The devil shows up, but all in all, I think it's a series that more people need to watch. I've not really found anyone else who has, and
They
it's
bring Sauron back again.
How many seasons have there been, Jonathan?
I want to say 5, and it's 5. Yeah.
Do you know when it first aired?
2008.
That's going out in the final edit.
Oh, that's staying in.
I'm just not going to cut anything. This is raw, unedited. They can sue if they want.
I'm not affiliated with the
Was it BBC One or was it
I'd like to
BBC
say.
Two? Seems like a BBC Two sort of show.
I don't really know beyond it just being BBC.
It doesn't seem like it would be because it didn't get the audience.
No,
obviously, but
it feels more
commission-
BBC Two.
Yeah, I think it's probably BBC Two. Silence there, just I'll just add in after the fact. I'll say it is or it isn't.
Oh man, there are just lots of characters I like. But anyway, I feel we should probably move on. I think that's all we can say about being human for now.
I mean, the most important thing is, are you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I love how it's like Twilight.
That's the joke.
Now, I'm Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf. So,
Not the Vampire Diaries, guys.
That's quality television.
I think you got the credit.
It's not quite the originals, but the Vampire Diaries is still very.
Not quite Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It's like the best show. That's the best Joss
not
Whedon show
quite
apart from Fire.
Skyrim, The Dawn Guard.
I heard of the OG shows.
Buffy, yeah, but Buffy's like 100% better than the Avengers.
I mean, it's not.
I mean, it is.
The Buffy episode where everyone sings is better than the Avengers. None of the rest of it.
So
After that, we're getting into the meat of the episode,
Back on the menu, boy.
which are the game and film I picked from this year. Ponyo, which came out in Japan in 2008, and Mirror's Edge, which also came out in
Japan.
It probably did, to be honest. Films just like get delayed for no reason. They just have to incubate them, make sure they're not like, I don't know, carrying a virus or something.
He might ask you if you're a boy or a girl.
That's not explain that. Well, which one should we talk about first then?
We don't talk about the game first.
The game. Well, that would be.
Unless the film is better than the game, which is not. So let's talk about the game.
That's Mirror's Edge. So, Mirror's Edge, as we explained last episode, it's almost a racing game, except it's a parkour game where you run across these across rooftops and across levels that are sort of these like obstacle courses. You use this system where you can wall run, vault over things, slide over things, and generally it's a game about building up speed because it's really cool to be going fast. That's why Sonic is still around after being terrible for so many years. But the game has its flaws in the fact that a lot of people feel that, arguably due to EA's influence, that things like shooting and sections where you're in a room full of guys with guns in a parkour game just are there for some reason. And also the story, people in the Mediator have had their, I want to say, complaints.
Are we the Mediate?
The mediators.
I don't like this.
I am the Mediate.
People in the Mediator have had their complaints with. But overall, I think I definitely enjoyed the experience, but I'm eager to hear what you've all felt about this game.
I think we should go around, so it's me, then Ethan, then we'll give Johnny the floor after we've had our say. We'll give him the floor. I know he's got some things in store, so I'm eager to hear
I
this.
just imagine him loading up his like 2-page amount of notes on how much he dislikes this game.
Yeah, I think Mirror's Edge is a really good puzzle game because that's what it is essentially. It's basically Portal, but you are the portal guy. You're a female protagonist who barely speaks in a white environment, in which the game gets way worse towards the second half, where it doesn't signpost as well where you're supposed to go, and and yeah, I think it's all right. I think it's very definitely unique. I think that's something the Mirror's Edge has. I don't really have a lot to say about it though. I mean, it's pretty good. I think the level design is brilliant. That's why the sequel didn't work as well, because they decided to make it open world, so you had no idea where you were meant to go. The story isn't great, but then again, like, it doesn't need to be, really. All the story.
I was definitely invested in fucking Rope Burn. Pope.
I'm also a genuinely great point.
I'm
that
also
I was going to be able to back up.
I'm also very glad that the sibling in this game, which you form an emotional attachment to, they don't kill off in 2 milliseconds of starting the game. You can actually be like, oh, this is a person. They don't just sort of say, how's Mom's funeral? And then have no connection.
In the opening cutscene, they set up the world, which they sort of just throw away like within a minute of the game by going like, oh yeah, the police don't mind, and then immediately like the fucking guy, whatever the guy on the radio goes, he's like, the blues are getting trigger happy on The Wire. There's a lot of blues on The Wire in this game.
Yeah, and it's a game where you follow red objects that tell you where to go, which we'll get onto.
To escape the blues.
Exactly.
Behind you.
Colour theory.
Yeah, so I think all the story needs to do is justify like the mechanic.
Justify why you're fucking running.
Why you are running and not walking. Because you're being chased. So yeah. Also the combat, like you said, I mean, the best thing about it is the fact that you can just finish the game without picking up a gun.
Yeah.
We can't.
We should
You can finish the game without shooting at anyone.
Yeah, we all
You
got.
have to shoot at the bonnet of a car.
We all got the Test of Faith achievement, which is going through the game without shooting a gun at an enemy.
You shouldn't have been able to pick up a gun. I mean,
Yeah,
because
again,
You
that's
don't in the next game.
yeah, really.
Yeah, they just you can't pick up a gun.
the game is way more fun when you don't.
Yeah, like I can definitely see people at EA thinking the game wouldn't sell if it didn't have a bit where you just hold a gun, which makes no sense because it goes against what the game is.
I think I really like some of the bits where like you were just in a room or you had to just take out like 5 or 6. I think you didn't have to, but I always did because I enjoyed the sort of puzzle aspect.
I think you should have, but I just ran past like everyone unless I absolutely had to.
I just found it quite a lot of fun, just like going. I've got 10 seconds to live and I've got to take out 3 guys. How am I going to do this? I'm doing it like 15, 20 times until I get it perfect.
When I was in a chamber, I'd always start by trying.
It's portal. You're in a chamber.
Wherever I am, I'd always try and start by taking out all the guards first and do that 2 or 3 times until I died. And if I couldn't do it, then I would just try my chances by just running through. And 9 times out of 10, it works.
Yeah.
You can make that run.
But then sometimes, like I think towards the end of the game, you have to, after you've done the sniper bit, you have to basically run down the spiral staircase and go out of a revolving door. I didn't realise you had to go out of a revolving door. So I took out all of them.
No, there's so many guards in that segment. You can run past them really quickly if you know the jumps.
Well, I took out all 10 of them, and there's one behind the glass that you can't get to, and I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I was like, okay, you go through the door.
You can literally just run to the door and the cutscene plays. It's not even like you need.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know that, and I had way more fun taking out all those guys than I would have just running through the door. In fact, that was my favourite bit of the game, getting down that staircase.
Yeah, I remember that mission. Ethan, what do you think of this game and this story which you felt an attachment to?
Well, I quite like this game. I mean, I know you're not a big fan of it and you think it's over you think it's just a bit of a cliche, really. I think Johnny agrees as well, but I
don't dislike it. It's fine. It's just all the
but you don't think it's like anything special. You think
all,
it's pretty simple.
All the story's got to do is justify why you're running.
Well, you're against the clock. Well, not literally, but you are trying to get somewhere and do something before, well, the blues catch up with you.
But you can skip the cutscene and, like, the game is fine. Like, the cutscenes don't matter. Like, that's the problem with the story. It's so disposable. It's sort of just like, Faith, you've got to go here and run and do this.
I don't know. I think most of the game it's pretty cool because you're trying to uncover this conspiracy, Project Icarus. And then when you
I'm going to go out on record and say, although Project Icarus is a dumb name, I think it's a pretty cool idea. Three-quarters through the idea to have the new enemies. Shut the fuck up.
Icarus is an alright name. The project is not
it
good.
makes sense.
Is teaching the police how
Yes!
to run.
Because the entire game, you've just thought of the blues, air quotes, as being these dumb people they just sort of slow with guns. 3/4 of the way through, it's this new enemy type that can fucking chase you down.
Once.
See, the problem
And
is...
they're hilarious when you see what they are. It's just
But you're not meant to be looking back. Just the idea that they're behind you is what there is.
You're building up Project Icarus and you see it in action. And you're like, why was this a project?
What?
Needs to run.
Because especially in this
It's what-
world, just like locking a few doors, or like getting rid of a few wooden planks that are randomly around, or just like putting, I don't know, there's a much better way, just like putting spikes along edges of buildings. There's a much better way to stop runners than training guards to do parkour.
And what I was,
But isn't that way cooler, Jono? Even though it looks fun, isn't that way cooler?
while the police were chasing me, I'd get a little bit ahead, I'd turn around, I'd cross my arms, and I'd stare at them until we got a bit nearer, and then I'd start running away again.
And then you'd miss a jump and you'd lie on your back.
I love how that is a move you could do, is just turn your back whilst jumping and then just crunch onto your back.
Yeah, that's when you mess up the wall run
It's called the
jump one.
I think my least favourite part of the game in terms of the actual gameplay is the boss fight with Celeste. Because it's the most stiff boss fight.
That's
Basically,
very shit.
It's
I'm not gonna
terrible
lie.
because everyone's movement is like
Ethan is walking a straight line, and then spinning around on one
it's
leg.
terrible. I mean, there's just
Oh,
no
man.
flow
Yeah,
to it.
there's,
Yeah.
it doesn't
It's
work
really,
very well.
really stiff. It's
Especially
terrible.
since it like encourages you to stay in one place, and there's no reason why you should do any attack over the other. You can just randomly block some of them.
I have
Yeah,
no,
she can
I have
even
no
block when
idea
Do a
how
jump kick.
you think that that's a man as well for like the whole game. Like,
Yeah.
this male assassin is trying to kill you. What is he?
I
doing?
mean,
It's
I
like-
get when it shoots rope burn, and you're like, you literally can't see them.
Yeah.
And I kind of get from the security camera footage. But when you meet them, and you're like,
Who is this guy?
I guess that's part of the sexism in the running industry, Harry.
So, I don't even know why Celeste was trying to kill you.
It's because everyone fucking betrays you or dies
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
thing.
So
Apart from the guy that
that-
doesn't betray you at the end, who just like goes, "I'll hold them off."
Yeah, shall we have
You're
questions?
laughing because you know it's fucking dumb.
He's
just
no,
fucking
no, man.
He's like, "I'll hold them off because there's no guys coming up the stairs."
There's just
And then
guys
you
behind
you
him.
immediately enter a room full of guys. Like, what can you help me get rid of these
What I
guys?
love is I didn't kill any of those guards. I just ran past all of them. But so they presumably just continue on and shoot him in the back.
Yeah, and that's what happens. You get in the server room, you get that Miller.
The server room is like many minutes later. It's clearly
He
just
lasted a few minutes then.
The animation of him pulling out the guns really made me laugh.
He shoots those people. You think you've got another rope burn V2 mission where you go in through the door and it's a boss fight, and he just pulls out the guns and shoots
Right,
the
Ethan,
security
do
guards.
you want to conclude your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I didn't really have many thoughts to say to begin with, but I quite like how the running on the rooftops and all of that parkour stuff is actually the transition from level to level, and when you're actually inside a chapter with an objective, the game has these buildings that are quite unique and extensive. Like one level will be the sewers, and then you'll be in an underground train station, and then you'll be in a shopping mall, and they are all very, very different and quite fun. And yeah, they are very. I think it's good world building because the yeah, very funny, Johnny. But the actual buildings themselves are, like I said, really extensive, and there's a lot to explore. And if you really want to go out of your way, try and find all those packages, all 30 of them. It's just good fun. It is.
I wouldn't say world building. I think level design.
Okay, alright, fine.
But that's
level design.
for me. I like the aesthetics of the level design, but not actually the levels themselves. I don't. There's never a bit which I felt was really fun to run on. The running is fun, but the places to run aren't. Was what I
When you
the
start at the
underground
bottom of a
stations-
bit,
the
yeah.
underground stations are really fun.
Yeah.
Jumping on trains.
Yeah,
that's
I
amazing.
love
it.
When you've
I
got to
love
dodge the obstacles
when you're on
that
top of
come
a
in.
train
Yeah.
and it feels like you're going 200
Yeah.
miles an hour on
I
top
also,
of that
I also
train.
love it when you're at the top of a building and the police are there and you've got to try and get on the street level and you're running on like subway stations and like that to me felt like well sort of the
I
early
think
games,
the only
but-
reason why you don't like the fact you think that it's not fun to just run around and you're never like, oh well, that was really fun. I think it's because we're not good enough at the game to find it fun, if that makes sense. Like if you're really good
It's
at the
like
game,
Dark
you'll be able
Souls.
to go this, that, all very quickly, and it will feel.
I
So
know.
I
It's
don't-
an
when you
incredible
get-
game to master. I'd
Exactly,
love to.
exactly.
I'm probably going to go back and do
Yeah.
more time trials, to be honest,
Once-
to see how good I can
Exactly.
get.
Once I finished the game, I watched a few walkthroughs online, and the guy that I was watching was fantastic at the game. From watching him, I could see that he played this game quite often, and he literally was. He could just do something in about 10 seconds, and he'd be there end all the way over there in the space of like 10 seconds, and it was just fun to watch because he really looked like he'd mastered
Well,
the
I
game.
think the problem sometimes is the fact that you'll be in a very small area and the game just slows down. The whole point of it is the speed. So when you're in a big open space and there's like perhaps different options of where to go, there are different options.
I feel like the game doesn't get itself with moments like that. Just here's a small confined place where you have to just scoot along the edge, which takes ages. Now you have to scoot up a pipe, that takes ages. Now you have to look behind you. God, that takes ages for some reason. It just completely slows down.
It's a nice change of pace.
I
think it's so fast.
There's more slow moments than there are quick moments. Slow moments when you're in an environment where everything sort of looks the same.
Because
you've
fast
got to
moments.
You've got to just get up somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's just like how many times?
Yeah, especially since sometimes it's not 100% clear. Like there's a ledge somewhere.
The bit where you have to climb the scaffolding towards the end of the game.
Oh no, where it's like the multiple levels.
No, that's one of the most fun
good
parts of the game
puzzle
for me.
in it, though.
That was because the gimmick of that was you had these two.
Yeah, the two pillars, and you have to get up them and go across each one,
and you gradually make your way up.
It was fun for a minute, and you realise you're just going to have to keep doing the same loop about 4 times.
I think it's a different series of puzzles you jump to each time, though. You have to work out which one.
It isn't literally just jump here, jump there, jump there, jump there. It is very, very different.
Well, okay, so
jumping.
Pretty much.
But it is different.
Like making you do this, like that's why I love the bits where you're actually running away from someone. And I know Project Icarus is a meme, but imagine if you actually encounter Project Icarus more than once.
Yeah.
And like, because I know even though the police couldn't chase you, because you never really look back, you always feel like they are chasing you.
Yeah, you always feel like you're against the clock and stuff.
Yeah, those bits are the best bits of the game.
I really
most of them are early on.
Do you think that you guys would have? You said at the beginning that you weren't a whole fan of. I can't remember if it was you or Tony, but one of you said that you weren't a whole fan of the fact that it was Blues chasing you, and you felt like the conflict wasn't as good as it could have been. Would you have preferred it if it had been Blues, or if there had been like a time limit and you had to reach a destination within an allotted time?
I feel like time limits would have been too like constricting, because for some people they would have been really easy, and for some people they just would have been really hard.
No, I really like the people chasing me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big fan, as we'll learn next year's Mediator. I'm a big fan of missions where there is a time limit, and if you fail it, you've got to do it all over again. I really like that. I really like. I mean, if the time limit's generous, and if the mission wasn't full of those bits where you're like inside a room, and it's like they're gonna get through faith, and they never will. You gotta get up there. You gotta just keep pressing LB about 10 times, and not running as you slowly go along a ledge.
On one last note, I think something they could have done, which would have been quite a simple change, and it would have gone a long way in making the whole world feel a bit more dystopian, was actually having the ground completely black, so it makes the towers look like they're a lot higher than they are.
Oh, you mean like on the pavement?
I think some of the best bits of the game when you traverse down to ground level.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're great.
I think the only ground level ones that are quite fun are the sewers and the train station ones, when you're actually inside a building
and
you can't see.
The bit when you're in that massive pit quite early on in the game, you have to climb down it.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe just for the ground level, but when you're actually on top of rooftops, it maybe could have been like some sort of black mist, so it makes you feel like you're a lot higher than you are. I think would have been a good change.
Some sort of like fog, like that one mission in Halo Reach had, where it made the things.
And it would have made the city seem a lot more massive than it was as well, I think.
Yeah, because like we said, there are more slow bits than fast bits. That's because fast bits, you're moving past so much environment so quickly, it's probably very expensive to have a game that's
Imagine
that.
having a portal gun in the world of Mirror's Edge. Like, the amount of
All
white surfaces everywhere. Jesus Christ.
The levels would take like 10 seconds to complete, because if you're here and you need to get over there and you see a white surface, you're like, okay, whoosh, walk through. There's a red door right there. I'm in.
Also, the long fall boots. I mean, you could just jump off the rooftops. It'd be great.
It generates so much momentum.
All I'm saying is, Valve aren't doing much these days apart from being a shop. Crossover.
Mirror's Edge.
Could you imagine what Mirror's Edge would be like if you had like orange and blue goo as well, so you could like bounce up really high and go flying?
No, because that would make it a good game. Which it is. It's just. I think I'm being a little bit harsh on it because I did enjoy it while I was playing it.
Right.
Sometimes we have an atmosphere of memeing.
I think what normally happens is like we try and play devil's advocate a lot.
Yeah.
But then I think this is partially.
Yeah, then we look around and like
partially
7 out of 10.
because it's the three of us, and we're not talking to the person who actually hates the game. So let's get on to that now.
Yes. Well, let's begin with question time first. Let's go. What was the big conspiracy?
The conspiracy was that someone had set up your sister for Pope's murder. So you knew your sister was innocent because she's your fucking sister. But the game starts with fucking.
That would be a really good twist if like she wasn't.
I know that was the later point I was going to make. Just imagine if at the final bit you finally rescue her and it's just like, oh yeah, no, I was working for the Blues the whole time.
Yeah,
that's why Merc.
She is a blue.
That's the thing.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. What a shocking twist! I was a blue the whole time. You already knew that.
That is a great meme fucking Mirror's Edge twist. I was blue the whole time.
To be honest, basically, Jackknife has a bit where it's like, I'm not a blue wearing his blue t-shirt. It's like, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, but it
we
was
got-
trying to prove your sister's innocence or try to get your sister out of the situation.
Do we have to
she had been
actually
framed
explain
for.
the like the whole conspiracy?
Yeah, well, what was the government thinking with this conspiracy?
I think was the guy getting too popular.
Yeah, Pope was,
Yeah, the guy was
getting
asking
too much
questions.
political
So, yeah,
support.
Pope was essentially running against the government. I guess.
Yeah, he was running against the secret Illuminati that is sort of implied throughout the game.
So they took him
when
out.
they reference people that are high up in a
Yeah.
game where you run up on rooftops on top of buildings that are high up, symbolism.
They're in London Shard.
They're in the shard. That's quite funny.
What bad things has the government done?
Surveillance
They
and
banned-
not letting running.
Yeah.
Not letting you run. They want to stop the runners.
It's like in Footloose when they ban dancing, but in this game they ban running. So
In
it's
this
kind
case, they're banning trespassing and endangering civilians' lives.
I mean,
The transportation of question mark. That's the next question. What are they transporting?
it's probably like information. There's the guy who's the guy, you literally get a guy who runs to you and deposits the rifle which you need for the mission. That's another runner that does that,
Yeah.
like if you think about it. And so you could sort of get the idea that at the beginning of the story that it's set up that there were these riots, there's questionable political motivations going on, and the runners are again this resistance group going on that run, and that's really all they need to do. They're called runners.
Do you ever drop anything? 'Cause I always feel like you're sort of the middleman. Like you just take things from base to someone else who goes and.
Yeah, but you also,
I feel
you
like
as Faith have your own objective.
But
Which
you're
is sort of,
you're almost deliberately left out because I thought it was quite shady. I thought you're like giving people guns. Like there's a fucking rebellion probably in this world. I felt
Yeah,
like
that is that's a thing that I think like Celeste or Jackknife like says when they betray you is the whole reason this is why they're going after the runners is because the runners give transport things like weapons and just information that isn't surveillanced, so messaging between the rebel groups that want to overthrow the government, which is why they're going after the runners, because they can go after the runners, they can't go after whatever, underground or groups or the sort of people like Pope, even though they did go after Pope because their plan makes no sense, because they literally, Celeste is on team as a runner who is ready to betray the runners, and instead they decide they're going to frame a cop that's not in on it, because as the government you want people to think the cops are unjust as you run off and start killing the runners,
yeah, but
even
that's
though you could get a runner.
The government
cops
were
and
like,
government are two separate
yeah,
entities.
because the government, towards the end of the game, they show that they operate with like a private security force, right? And that's
Yeah,
what the
that's
whole
right.
thing is. That they
I
have
mean,
this-
I've been
that's
seeing this
where
logo.
Roadburn-
That's a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Go and check it out. Which
Yeah.
comes out of literally
that does come
nowhere.
out of nowhere.
But also there's the fact that I don't know,
Oh, it's so good.
the cops are then still the ones that are hunting you down. It still makes more sense to blame it on the runners as you start clamping down on the runners instead of blaming it on just some random cop because I don't know.
Maybe they didn't want Celeste to go down because she's like a fucking asset to them.
Yeah.
I
Next,
mean, you could think about it, but when you're running at 200 miles an hour, it's general enough. We need to go here, get the rifle, or we need to go here, break fucking Kate out. We need to go here, find Ropeburn. Fucking Ropeburn. And the plot beats are general enough that you know what you're running towards most of the time, or running away
if
from.
the game had gone into depth with this, it would have been the most boring fucking thing. The only way
Trade negotiations.
the only way I wouldn't have minded it is if while you're running you heard more.
yeah, that's what I mean. You could get more from this as you're running.
Instead of just silence most of the time.
And have a conversation with Celeste, maybe, you know. So her betrayal means more than just, hey, the
Alright,
assassin looks.
Jenkins.
You do have the conversation with her on the top of the roof, don't you? And she says, you need to live more. And then she fucking betrays you and says, sorry, I need to live.
You train with her at the very start.
Oh, the training mission is terrible.
I love the justification of the training mission though. It's like you've been out for a while. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I like the justification. It's just the fact that just as you begin to get up speed, it stops you. Has you spend like 20 seconds watching Celeste do it like slowly, and then you go and do it again, and of course you're going to fuck it up because you're new to the game and you don't know how to jump. So then you have to go and watch her do it for 20 seconds again. Now I know the route. I'm just getting used to using the buttons here. This is taking so much longer than it needs to. Anyway, so
No, I think the general public needed a literal scapegoat for the murder of Pope, and not just the generic runners. If you've got like a proper person,
Because the runners are already the enemy in society.
Yeah, you could almost... Yeah, because there's that one thing that signs your child is a runner.
Yeah.
And it's like fondness for the colour red, you know.
And when you're in the elevator, there's all those things.
Yeah, it's like the
moment.
moments that make you stay down is when it gives you a bit of exposition if you want to read it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the world,
those-
like sometimes it'll have like signs that the world is going wrong, like things about memorials for a riot.
They just
being
BuzzFeed
delayed.
articles, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a good point in the story to be like when you're loading, you know, because that's what
Yeah,
the
those-
elements are.
those are some of the strong points of
Oh,
the game.
while we're talking about elevators, I can't believe it took them to the last mission to have you're in an elevator, it stops, you have to go to the elevator shaft. I thought the first time I got in the elevator, I'm going to have to go up the elevator shaft. Because it's just like...
Well, surely that's good because it means it wasn't what you expected would happen.
Well, I knew it would happen. I'm
Expectations.
glad they didn't do that more than once. Because that would have been way too easy.
I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but when Faith finds out about what Project Icarus is, she finds out about, on the screen there's all the information about the various different runners, and all of them have information, but under Celeste's it says classified. Did you guys pick up on that?
I thought there'd be something like that, but I didn't notice that
And
at the
I
time.
saw that, I was
so
like,
just had to run on.
Celeste has got some explaining to do, and then literally 5 minutes later you find out that she's just betrayed the runners completely. I thought that was a pretty cool
Very
thing.
neat.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that if you paid attention and you just slow down a bit, you would have noticed. But
Well,
know,
if you
it
like
adds
something,
to it,
you're
but
bound
it
to
doesn't.
pay more attention.
It
to
isn't
it.
necessary to understand why she betrayed the group, unlike some obscure side mission.
Yeah, I mean,
The shard.
Okay, that's more a being English in 2018 problem more than a Mirror's Edge problem. Because the shard wasn't fucking around in 2008, was it?
no.
Probably not.
That's just a contextual issue for
Yeah,
us.
fucking London fucking stole me.
The fact that it's called the shard.
Well, Jonathan, any more? Probably
Any
quite
more
fun.
I mean, I've got a whole list. I think I've run out of questions.
I think we did quite well on the questions.
Yeah, I'm really annoyed that Tony knew the
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, this game is clear, is what this game is.
Yeah, it is.
Apart from the moments where it slows down and goes against the core of the game, most of its design is incredibly clear. Like, it's not as useful as it could be. I have a feeling whenever like a fucking programmer or whatever went up to whoever was the UI lead and was like, your user interface guy says, hey, can we convey this information to the players, like what the mission is about, how much ammo is in your gun, what your mission objective is. That guy was immediately fired because the UI lead wanted there to be only a dot on screen
That's really
all
cool.
the time.
Yeah,
It's very impressive. There are a few moments when I feel like, okay, I get that you're doing this to be impressive.
I know this
There's
is
some things
like-
you could have done a bit better, like pressing the B button that changes your direction.
Yeah.
It could have been like something that appears on the ground.
You know,
You know.
the dot isn't the thing that like if you every game has to have something in the center of the screen like a dot.
Yeah, you
'Cause
get-
otherwise people get motion blur.
Yeah.
You need something to focus on. I really like that fact.
I never knew that. That's actually quite cool.
I accidentally skipped about half the cutscenes because it's so easy to.
I know.
It's-
I skipped the one where Merc dies. I was really worried.
I skipped the one where you found out it was Celeste, and like I actually played the next mission, not realizing she betrayed me. I was just like, oh, that was just some random
Yeah,
person.
they're
guys-
so
did you guys see that
preemptive of you
extremely-
wanting to skip the cutscenes.
Exactly, because they're like,
press fucking.
no one's gonna
Start
care
the
about the
skip.
stories.
That's
Did
the
you
one
guys-
UI
Did you guys
button.
see
on
the
the
random
fucking thing.
cutscene? It was just her running.
Yeah, that's the one
that was just it. She was
Yeah.
just running for like
She was just
15
running.
seconds, and that was
That's
the
like
cutscene.
leading up to the final mission, I think.
Can you see her facial expression? the emotional conflict within her about saving her sister.
I think the cutscenes are actually pretty decent though.
Yeah, I know.
I like the
animation was one of my
two.
favourite things.
The first two with Miller are pretty good. There's one where you sneak up on him, and one where you both pull a gun on each other.
And it uses the darkness really well.
Yeah.
Because she's kind of crawling along.
You feel like Batman, and you're like, man.
She
If only I was this.
ventilation shaft.
If only I was this cool when I was playing the game.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's really cool artwork, but the game itself does nothing of it, which means the cool artwork is only there for like the plot, and then the plot isn't good enough to justify the cool artwork. So it just feels like I don't know. It just doesn't. I wanted either more plot or like something else that happens from having those little cool artwork cutscenes.
So would you rather the gameplay was as animated as the cutscenes were?
Yeah, or at least there's perhaps a moment where it is just like a combination of two things, something that works better in like that cartoon form, and then this 3D model for when you're running would have been an interesting sort of mix if you could get the stars. Because I think one of the problems with this game is it's in between a lot of things, because it's not quite puzzling enough to be a puzzle game like Portal 2 is in its own right. It's not quite.
It's very Portal though. It's a lot like the first Portal game. It's got a lot of the same problems as well in terms of signposting where you're meant to go towards the latter stages of the game.
But you never get lost, because if you ever don't know where to go, you have the B button.
B button doesn't always point you in the direction.
Sometimes it will point you like up in the top right hand corner.
Yeah, but that's just a general. It's not going to solve the game for you, is it?
Yeah, I
it's
know.
just going to tell you the general way you're going to go, and then you find your way to
I
it.
don't particularly like being in a big open space and very slowly having to work out. Like, it's just a platform there, and it's not very. I prefer when it emphasises speed, which I've said. And I think Tony was when he was talking about the cutscenes. I think the game really makes you feel like Batman.
The game. Well, I meant for the cutscenes. The game, it's a bit like you're a bit, because the combat.
Every Arkham review, I really felt like Batman.
But Mirror's Edge, it wouldn't be good if it didn't have Batman.
Mirror's Edge is the best Sonic game that's been made in the last 15 years.
That's very true. You swap the blue and red in the game.
Could you imagine Silver?
Funny.
Could you imagine a Sonic game where Silver just withdraws 2 pistols like the captain does?
That's Shadow. That's definitely Shadow.
If Crush 40 had done the music for Mirror's Edge, I would have fucking loved this game.
What music?
Yeah, I know. The game felt very silent at points.
Yeah. You should be able to pull out your headphones, place them in, and pick an obscure 90s song to play. As you're running.
Joke's on you, because I did that anyway.
You should have played Depeche
I
Mode as you
sometimes
were
listen to
listening
music
to
when
it,
I'm
because
playing
it's going fast.
Well, it is.
Jono,
I mean, it's like
your Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Who wants to get a 7 out of 10 for his Mediate review?
in real life, if you're running somewhere or you're going somewhere, you kind of put your earphones in because it makes the journey feel less.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I listen to music when I'm playing those sorts of video games. I mean, from the transition, so the rooftop sort of stuff of the game.
I used to listen to like towards the end of Red Faction when I know we can talk about this because we lost the Red Faction podcast. Okay. But when I was clearing out the EDF, I used to just listen to like when he had to get rid of 600 Control, like for the fifth time. I'd be like, right, I'm listening to a podcast because the game audio is not going to offer me anything new, which I wish I'd done for Mirror's Edge. Because
can we just talk about Red Faction for like another half hour?
no.
Right, shall I go through my list of pros about this game?
Oh, yeah.
So we've got-
I'll go.
We've got the running is fun. We've got the background messages are funny. There was another thing other than the elevator things, such as a fondness for the color red. There was a terminal that had a message on it, sort of written by a kind of anti-liberal, sort of painting a picture of this world, which was quite nice. Had some outdated slang. It was a brilliant read. There's the cool artwork. And then finally we have the death crunch you make whenever you fall down to your
yes.
death.
I was just about to mention, I think that's a great deterrent because that really makes you hate dying. Because I don't like those bones crunches, so that makes you want to survive more.
I really like the noise.
It's oddly sort of pleasing, especially like when you reach point, like with the scaffolding mission, where there are just moments where you're like, "Oh, I've buggered this up. I want to go back to the start."
The worst thing about the scaffolding mission is the fact that you can fall so far as to not die, but to lose loads of progress and change where your checkpoint is.
Yeah, you change where your checkpoint is.
Yeah.
Did you do that? Oh man, I'm
Bullshit.
so glad that never happened to me.
Yeah,
'cause I
so,
would hate
so
that.
that's why when you're screwed, you're like, you're looking down, you're like, I'm gonna have to try and avoid this platform to try and die.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, that's scaffolding, but it's
Okay.
not good.
I'm coming.
I've remote. Well, now we're on to cons. Some of these I've like
We've
already
not
said.
got into your cons yet. Jeez, this is gonna be a long podcast. Actually, it's not, because like Ponyo's gonna be like 10 minutes.
Yeah, so
You
I'll,
like it, he likes it, we don't. End of podcast.
yeah, so I've got my stuff about the tutorial. The fact that corridors are just irritating most of the time. The fact that it's not exciting to be going across the ledges because you're just looking at a wall and it slows down the game and it's meant to be fast. Later in the game, it's sort of more about those slower moments instead of the fast moments when
that's
you're
why
going
the end
quickly.
of the game's way worse than the start.
Yeah.
Still quite good though. I really like the final mission.
Faith is really temperamental when it comes to grabbing the ledges. Sometimes she does it, sometimes she just doesn't and falls to her death.
Yeah.
Which really irritates me.
Depends on the angle you're coming in from.
Yeah, it's
so.
sort of I think a lot of the time when you're trying to get on top of a sort of fence, if you're jumping across and on top of something, I feel like that's when she's really bad.
I get it when it's at an angle, and that's fair enough. But the times when I feel like I've literally bounced off the surface and then just fallen to my death because she just hasn't grabbed on.
I think the game's quite lenient in terms of like you'll be falling and then you'll quickly press LB and then an arm will just like her arm will grow about 500 feet as she grabs the top and pulls herself up. And like there's no way you should have meant that's just the game being
It's
nice.
definitely more on the side of being lenient with Windows, except when it comes to parrying, which I don't like.
Oh yeah, parrying is like quite bullshit. I didn't do it until the staircase bit where I thought I had to take out 10 guys. I really didn't.
Parrying was the only way I took out guards.
Oh no, I had a little routine. I'd slide, kick them so they'd be knocked back, and then I'd punch them a few times. And then if they still needed going, I'd jump kick them in the face.
There are a few surfaces which you look at in the game and it's like I could climb this, and then she just can't because it's like
because it's
just
not
the texture.
important for the mission. This is about having fun. This is about saving your sister.
No, there was literally a bit on the
boat.
boat.
It's about saving yourself.
On the boat when you're going to the sniper, there's a bit round one of the sides where it's this like fence-like thing which I could grab onto, go round, and it would have a path that would avoid the sniper's sort of sight and will allow you to sneak up on them. I was like,
do you
this
mean
is how
those
you do
bits
it.
where it's a barbed wire fence that will extend slightly around?
No, not.
I'm
not
really
those
glad
bits.
you brought that up because before you get to the sniper, getting there is so much fun.
Yeah, I really like the mission.
It was just
That
it was just a quiet fight from Metal Gear Solid 5, or the sniper fight from it was just a Metal Gear boss fight basically, and I really liked that bit because it just reminded me of a better game.
I like that. I think that mission has the last boss fight is bad, but when you lose it or you do the win in the game, losing the cutscene thing, and you have the chase with her, that I really like the chase because it's really fast and she doesn't stop as much, and she's like shooting the vents and she's like creating the smoke, and you can like jump and leap over them
and fold her arms and stare at you.
That
So
level
it has a
really is
very
a test
good
of how skillful you are in the
sense
game,
of
isn't it?
fucking
Because you
beat
do have to
to
keep
it.
up.
I almost feel bad when I like do a segment in the game like really quickly, like first time, because I'm like, I probably took like 2 weeks to get done.
Think about Cuphead. You do a boss first time, it's like, well, that was 5 months work. I've just fucking battered out in 2 minutes.
Right.
I quite like how the last thing you do in the game is sort of Portal 2-esque, where it's just something as simple as just jumping off of something or pressing the LB button. I think
failed
it's
that 10 times.
You're joking. You've just got to jump with a helicopter and you're done.
Because what you do is you jump on the helicopter, you kick him out, then you've got to press LT to drop down. Otherwise, you just swing off of the helicopter. And I know.
Just didn't affect.
This happened to me like 10 times. I kept doing it, kicking him off, and then just swinging myself like. You actually have to press LT to stop. But I was really tired by that point. I was just like, oh, I'm fucking done the server.
I think we've established the reason behind every comment you have. You're just not very good at this game. Because every problem you come up with is like, I'm just not good enough for that. That's what.
I'm not very good at the game, no. But I really like the bits that like I suck at, which is taking out the guards. So I like the slow bits of the game. But if the game wasn't meant to be slow, but I thought it was. I hate the bits that are meant to be slow.
Oh no, you know what part of the game I really love? One of my favourite. I'm going to keep referring to them as chambers because they are chambers to me because it genuinely is a puzzle
Shit
game.
awesome.
It's the part of the sewers just before you make your way back up to ground, and there's just like hundreds and hundreds of beams in this massive room, and you've got these massive concrete beams. And
I know what you're missing.
From one to
you
the
have
next,
to go
one to the next,
climb all the way up.
Yeah.
And there's a zip line at the end.
Yeah.
I like that bit. That's
hate-
pretty good.
Okay, this is another criticism, which is me being bad at the game. But I'm really bad at getting on the zip lines. Like, in the tutorial, when you've got to get on the zip line, I failed that like 10 times.
Oh yeah, I struggled getting on the tutorials.
There's a really cool bit though where you go from one zip line to another zip line. I'm like, this is
That's
some
very
fucking
awesome,
James
yeah.
Bond
I think
shit.
I'm really bad at the really cinematic moments where it's like, you've got to get to the crane. I'm like, I always fail those moments where it's just like, run from the cops. I'm like, yeah.
I know what you mean. It's really
It's too
annoying.
much
It's really annoying when you're here and you've got to go over there.
I feel like
And there's a zip wire here, and you don't take the zip wire, and halfway to destination, you see a zip wire, and you're like, oh, I should have probably taken that, shouldn't I? That'd have been a lot cooler and quicker.
all the really epic moments of the game, like, were meant to be like, oh, this is so cool, I just failed. I see like 10 times, and I was like, this is tedious. It's like the fucking Halo 4 in boss fight, where I couldn't remember what R3 was. I was like, what the fuck is R3? Anyway, quick time events. Gotta love them.
Jonathan, new point?
Yeah, I'm about. Oh, not yet. Halfway through the list. Anyway,
Oh, Jesus.
Just give it a score.
yeah, I'll go through these quickly. So I've said my feelings about the world building. I've said my feeling about the plot. I'll just add that I don't feel Celeste's betrayal meant anything. I also saw it coming just because, like, oh, it's female. It's gonna be that other female character we know.
It is
a
the
really good
mystery
point.
thing of like, this is either going to use a new character. It's going to be one of the two people, including the main character that I know.
Oh, God.
Right. If this is a sham democracy, which is something this is described as, Pope's not gonna win. So they don't
He was
have to
asking
kill
too many
Pope.
questions.
Yeah, he was gaining
You're
popularity
asking
and
too
very
many questions of this
implied.
game by thinking it's got more
If
than
you're
it
living
has.
in a really
Assess-
if you're living in a really oppressive society and you've got a guy that comes out of nowhere and he makes these remarkable promises like he's all about change, he's going to get support even if it is a sham society.
But when you kill him, then everyone starts asking questions, not
And
just
that's why
him.
it's set up to
Yeah,
be king.
but it's better to kill him and stop his
Is this another terrorism
momentum
point?
than just letting him go.
This is.
I don't
Oh,
know, I
speaking
think
of momentum, the slowing down time mechanic is like completely pointless.
Yeah, it is.
It's
I don't
only
think
really
I used
good
it once.
for
I only
the
used it
run,
once, and that
turn,
was in the
jump
tutorial,
things.
and that's only because it asked me to. But I
The
never used
only
it.
time I used it was when I was trying to when I was disarming the last guard in the server room because I was like, I cannot fuck up this disarm, otherwise I'm doing that all over again.
Going back to
Alright,
Point,
yeah. The
You're so bad at this game.
It took me a while, to be fair, until I learned there was that jump you can do.
alright. So
It's because I think my problem with this game is I had in my mind like I've got to do this perfect. It's got to look like the best.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, actually, before you make another point, the biggest bullshit in this
I just
game.
want to
right,
quickly get
is-
through this list.
Yeah,
not making a massive
I know.
talking
It
point.
is more our fault than it is yours. But oh god, this is so fucking dumb, right? Because you know the part where you got to stop the convoy that Kate's in and use a
Oh,
sniper.
that's terrible.
You risk killing her by
Yeah.
shooting one of the cars down. It's like, why would you risk
You
that?
gotta
Just
hit the
find a
engine.
way where she might not die. And obviously, it's a game, so she
Why
won't
can't you just
die.
shoot the tyres, which would make
Yeah.
more sense than
To
shooting?
be fair, I
Where
would.
the fuck is the engine? I'm like, I shot the bonnet, nothing happened.
Oh,
Shot
no,
the bonnet
I-
again, nothing happened. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, I shot the bonnet first time it worked. I was going, oh
Yes,
no, I'll just shoot the tyres. That makes more sense. But actually, no, I can't see the tyres.
Yeah, shooting the tyres would make way more sense. And it would also be a bit harder than just like hit the bonnet.
But yeah, did it right quickly. The Celeste fight we've already said is terrible, but the bits before and after are good.
So bad.
Holding B, if you're running in a direction, will just usually cause you to run off the ledge. Which is like if you're on the run from people and want to quickly go, where am I going? Which you do quite a lot in the game. It will just mean you run off the edge.
If it's
Holding
like-
B while you're running could be so much fun though. If your body just does such unnatural things, you start running sideways. You're like,
Yeah, it's if it's roughly in the direction you're going, I think it's fine. But when it's like you have to do a fucking 180 turn, you're like your head like snaps as you look towards it.
Yeah,
Faces
that's right.
now.
Most spawn points I noticed just have you facing a death drop. So if you die, but like keep your thumb forward on the
that's so
joystick
true,
because you
that's
want
so
to
true.
like get back to the
Yeah,
momentum
yeah.
you had before,
Because-
you just run and
Yeah,
immediately
because
die.
while the loading screen's on, your control still controls fate. So if you're like moving up on the jump stick, then as soon as you respawn again.
You're just
like,
falling to your death.
You're already falling.
It's like, oh,
yeah.
well, it's badly.
It's the same problem when with Red Faction Guerrilla. If you've just died, you feel angry, so you want to get going as soon as possible and start moving around. But as soon as you do that, you just die. So you've actually got to be patient, and it's just annoying. I was talking about when you get into a car and you want to just get going, but you press one button. It's like, no, actually, I'm not going to go into this car.
This podcast is secretly 2009 and 8 together.
The next thing,
2009
this
too.
I would ask a question about this, but I can't really think of the best way to phrase it. But the server room, it's got all the surveillance stuff
I love
in.
the server.
Which-
As long as much bullshit as it was for me, I loved it. Because when I solved it,
I hated the game at that moment, but when I found out there was that one springboard jump you could do to get behind the guard, I was like, I had like the biggest fucking sigh of relief as I like parried the last guy and just run up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he just turns and then shoots at you in that direction.
I think you
Just
go
doesn't-
close enough to him, which is the weird thing with the combat of like, because your punching like isn't really that good, and the slide kicks and the jump kicks and the wall run kicks like aren't really that much better than a melee attack. The best thing to do is to go up to someone and stand in front of them and hope they punch you so you can parry them.
Yeah.
And they just decide to shoot you in the face.
Yeah, they just do that randomly.
No, they rarely just decide to shoot you if you're up close to them.
Sometimes they whip out two like Magnum pistols and just.
Fucking love that. Fucking love Miller. Is
I
Miller
love-
good or bad? He's the Kylo Ren of Mirror.
I love how he has that moment where he doesn't just do this. He does the crossover and then goes like this. It's just like the most action movie moment.
What does he think he's in? Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare?
It's too better, Harry.
We're nearly at the bottom of the list, guys. Right. So they shoot all the like data banks things themselves as you're running around. They just don't even care. That is like the surveillance of like all of the city. And with that destroyed, they basically can't monitor everyone.
Yeah.
And then the messages start. They're not surveilling. They're not looking into every message.
Power bank
Basically,
fail.
it's really bad for them, and they're just there with fucking machine guns going.
Yeah, because they're hired security guards that don't care.
I think the problem with that bit is the fact that the game was like, okay, you're coming to the end of your own personal journey. We've got to find a way as well to make the world better. It's like, what's a really bullshit way that we can just cross these? But yeah, also where your sister's being kept is also where they're monitoring everyone. The only way to get to her is to destroy it all.
Yeah,
that
what kind of
opens the
emergency
door.
protocol opens the door?
the door.
That doesn't make very much sense.
You get to the roof if you fucking destroy the entire purpose of the shard.
And then you go
Yeah.
to the roof. You meet Jackknife, and
You
then
fall off the helicopter 10 times.
I love that little
Okay,
run up that you do
You've
though.
sometimes you've
So
got
do I.
to jump.
I did it a lot, Tony.
Man, it's like two short like
I know.
stacks.
I'm not gonna lie, the first time I did short take out the guards behind.
Yeah,
Harry, you fucking idiot!
I know I was meant to, but I was like, I want it.
that's the thing though. You'd actually. Yeah,
Nuisance for me was just like, I want to fight as many people as I can.
no, I think Harry's got it right. You have to take out those two guys.
You don't. It's
Because-
a game
There's
about
like
running and you
6 of them.
run.
It's like in a
let
Red
me
Dead.
finish
You
this
can't
point.
do Dead Eye on all of them. You just got to run and save.
Let me finish this point. If you don't take them out, they're still on the roof, and you end up crashing back into the roof, hanging off the edge. The shot moves back, and you don't see the guards anywhere because the game's like, okay, yeah, no, the guards just like fuck off.
No, the
'cause we want
helicopter
them to.
blows up and kills them all.
No,
Yeah.
they should still just be fine because the helicopter's all the way
No,
over
if the
there.
helicopter blows up in your face, you're dead, Johnny.
It
No,
doesn't-
you were on the helicopter.
Yes, no, but
You were
jump on the
closer to the helicopter.
No, but you jump off the helicopter with Kate and you land close to the edge of the building.
Mm.
Helicopter keeps going a little bit, swerves off and just kills all the guards, like to the side of you, but not near you.
So there's like
And that's what kills them.
but then when it moves back, there's no evidence that is what has happened at the top of the building.
Yeah, there's debris, isn't there?
Not that I don't.
Salvage.
I was just expecting you like as you're like hanging off the edge and like climb up the top. I was just hoping you'd all get shot full of bullets, then just fall down the
That
side
would
of the
be quite
building.
funny. I could have sworn that there was the explosion and that's what killed them.
Yeah, I definitely remember the
possibly-
helicopter crashing.
Yeah, but I feel like it crashes
Also, I
into
feel
the side
like
of
there's
you've
no
literally
point.
got the thing you've been running towards for the entire game in the helicopter. I think that's enough motivation to be run towards it, do the two small jumps,
The reason-
and
I know,
do the
but
slide kick.
The best thing about the game, obviously, is just battering guys with guns. That's the best. So like, I was just like, I'm just gonna batter these I know I literally can't do it, but I want to.
Anyway, next thing.
I don't know what I can do.
I don't know where they're taking Kate, or why they've not just like killed her already for some reason. But anyway, the other thing is she's always in her uniform. At that final scene, she's not only got her badge, she's got her security baton just next to her in her belt. They've arrested her. She's gone on trial. All this.
Yeah, because it all happened very quickly. Wonders of the swift justice system, huh?
They want to show her being a blue. They're like, this is a blue that's gone wrong. We're gonna keep her in a uniform.
Yeah.
It's a real cliche, isn't it? At the end of any sort of big action film or whatever, there's like there's the main villain who is he the main villain? I swear it's supposed to be a twist, but I thought we knew he'd betrayed us for some reason.
What, Jackknife?
Yeah, I thought we knew he betrayed us.
No, we always knew he was a bit shifty and off, but he never said that
He said he wasn't a blue.
Exactly.
So so it's like, it's the main villain, and he's got with a gun, but like the main person you're trying to save, and like they're helicoptering out. I was like, how many fucking things end like that?
That's a good ending.
Also, the reason they probably didn't kill Kate was
flying off the end. I'm over it. I did it twice.
What are you talking about?
But it's so much fun, just flying off the helicopter. I've saved you, Kate. Slow-mo RB, just face as I'm falling to my
No, the best thing to do, Harry, is if you turn around while you're diving and you melee attack, you do the fucking bird, and you get an achievement for it.
Oh no, what I should have done is
way you can
float
do
off the
that.
helicopter, just shoot Kate in the face. I was a blue the whole time. I wish you could actually kick Kate out.
Could you imagine a game or a film where it ends where you just kill the very person you've spent the entire game trying to save just deliberately, just because you feel like it?
What about?
Anyway, hang on. I wanted to say something. The reason they didn't kill Kate was maybe because they wanted to use her as leverage at some point. If they were ever in a sticky situation and Faith had the upper hand, possibly.
I think it's jail.
Yeah.
Why did they take her to the shark?
Yeah.
Why did they take her to the shark? To the room? That doesn't make any sense.
Just tell something. What are they
To
doing?
meet Jackknife.
That's why.
That's
So
my
you
idea.
Jackknife to go, I set you up, and then go to prison.
Yeah, that's why the final scene would be so much better if she turns and goes, no, it was me the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I just shits on the thing you've been doing for the entire game.
But it's like for me, that's what makes the most sense. That's how I can piece together all these weird loose strings.
Johnny's right. It would have been a fantastic twist if she had been like the villain of the story the entire time.
They try and play Jackknife betraying you as a twist. It's like I think Faith's like you. So I swear there's a bit where Jackknife and Roper were having a chat, and it's like I can't believe he betrayed us.
No, that's when Miller. That's Miller and Roper.
That's Miller.
And Miller is definitely like.
Sorry, I can't tell the difference between Miller, Jackknife, and Roburn. They all are the same voice actor. And look the same.
Well, no, one of them is dench, one of them is old, and one of them is a runner.
Miller's the captain, Roburn's in charge of the security, and Jackknife's just this street guy who's just...
He's an ex-runner.
An ex-runner, yeah, exactly. I mean, they are actually different.
When you kick him out of the helicopter, you should definitely fold your arms and start watching him into his chair.
No, it's not a fold of it, it's like this.
Yeah, that's
what
hey, what's doing there?
No, when he lands on the ground, he's like dying, and he's like got his hand on his back. He stays. Alright, is there any final points
Are we
that you
done?
have to roast this game?
Well,
Because I have to save this game for my fucking thing.
You know, I came into this with like 2 ratings, and I'm going to come out of it with the rating which is lower than those 2 ratings.
Alright.
Right.
Just realised how bad it is.
We've had the Jono roasting session has gone on for 800 hours. It's like the end of Ethan's fucking
Well,
tank.
I have one more thing, mostly just a fact to say. This game was produced by a guy called O'Brien, and he was inspired by Firefly, and I don't see how he was inspired by Firefly. Anyway.
I think
Inspired by 1984.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 1984.
the thing with Mediate is if the person who picks on it doesn't absolutely love it and would defend it to the death, then I think it would.
I did that once with Valhalla, and that scarred me for my entire life, so I'm not doing it again.
I didn't hear. What did you say?
I didn't get to the end of it.
You said if you don't defend it to the end of their life, then you fucking get shot.
It's just gonna become a meme.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna fucking come in at the end like fucking Jackknife.
No, we're all gonna come in the end. 7 out of 10.
Alright, so Mirror's Edge. How do I undo 20 minutes worth of fucking extreme memeing?
Delete the podcast. Corrupt.
Mirror's Edge. All right, to undo the fucking roast, it's incredibly tight movement system that is what the good parts of the game are built on. And so I will use the fact that I am the only one who played the time trials, which you unlock after beating the game, as the fact of when the game really shines for when it shows of how you can build momentum and complete this, because it is a sections where you have this level that is timed, and you get a 3-star system based on how fast you do it. One is like, are you alright at the game? Like, if you just do it regularly, you don't even qualify. You do it like at a decent speed and you get 1 star, reasonable speed at like 2 stars, and if you're a fucking speedrunner, you get 3 stars. Ethan, did you have something
I
to
was
say?
just going to say, I think another way that it's like Portal 2 is that...
It's not like Portal 2, it's like Portal.
Okay, right. Well, but
Portal
I
2
think
is perfect.
it's one of those games where if you play it again, you'll be a lot happier if you finish it in like a quicker time. Like the time. There is no limit, obviously, but the time that you complete the game in is a lot more important the next time that you play it, like in Portal 2, for instance. It's all about finishing it quicker, getting better and better.
Because that's what happens when you do the time trial sections. If you have this idea of you like perfect your run of this level, and you find new routes, and you find out like there's one level that's I did Edge, which is the name of one of the time trials.
Are they just levels in the game?
They are levels in the game, but they are like segments of levels in the game. They're literally like, if you do them fast, they're like 50 seconds long. And they're also new ones as well. Like there are ones that they've just made from scratch as well.
Yeah.
So it's literally like new content in the game.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And so it's like incredibly fast, and it's like incredible. There's this segment in the first mission, I think, after the prologue, where it's a set of stairs. And the first time you do it, you run up the stairs like a scrub, right? That's what a scrub would do. You like, I do it recently, I get like the first star. But then I'm like, no, there's got to be way faster ways, because like the 3-star way of doing it is like 45 seconds, and I did it in like a minute 20. And so I looked up like a way someone had done it just to see the routes they had taken. First of all, there's all this crazy shit you can do to like pull momentum out of nowhere using like a fucking glitch or something. You can like side dash and do like gain like momentum like FIFA 10. And there's a way you can like wall jump up, like completely bypass staircases, use all the things like the tuck-in jump where you like lift your legs up, which the tutorial teaches you and you never use it in the game, to like go past vaults, so you never have to do the vault. You use speed vaults because there's a way if you like press LB right, you vault with 1 hand instead of 2 hands, because 2 hands slows you down. Yeah. It's incredible how you can like shave off seconds and seconds just by doing like a thing in like the slightly better way. And it's got the Cuphead thing of like, oh, I'm not feeling this run. You retry really quickly, and you can do a mission, and just like what Harry said, where you feel like you want to do it perfectly. And at the end, like I finally had this one jump, which was a speed vault that I did, and I jumped, and I got down to 2 stars, so it was like 50-ish seconds from 1 minute 20. And I was like so impressed at how I had used the system that is the movement of the game to like refine it in such a way, and it felt like such like almost like playing a musical instrument, like at a fucking orchestra. Like it was mechanically like the best I could do, and that's where the game shone for me, is where it was like it felt so fluid in its movement, and that I was so like in love with it at that moment.
From the get-go, it did always feel to me like a game where there were multiple paths and multiple routes you could get to, differently to Portal 2 or Portal whatever, where it's literally just one set route. In this, it always felt like you could do different things, and it was just you just had to find out which way looked quicker to you.
Yeah, and the level
you can take the zip wire, or you can go down the long way.
The levels are incredibly done in the sense that the red always provides this direction to go, apart from the few times it doesn't. The red always provides this sort of direction to go through, and it's the incredible idea that it's the blue versus red, or red versus blue, where you go towards the red and you're being chased by blues. That's just such a simple setup that is most of the game, and it's just so clear in what it is.
The bits you're talking about are the best, but the problem is the fact that the time trials are unlocked after you finish the game.
Actually, they're unlocked like as you beat missions.
Yeah, I know, but like who's finishing a mission and going, I'm going to replay that mission 10 times. And B, the fact that all these bits are great, but in context of the game, you have to do like the hidden loading screens, and B, the indoor bits where you're just doing bad first-person platforming.
And it is a show of like the way we consume games is instead most people would consider it this traditional campaign that you do once and you experience, when really it sort of shines as this, again, racing game where you constantly are trying to best yourself with this small, like, tiny segment of a game of where it's like one jump that you just want to perfect.
That's sort of what, even though there weren't time, that's almost what I was trying to do in the campaign. In the fact that once you do it perfectly, and like most of the outdoor bits I did, it was just when the game slows down, becomes more linear, and becomes like indoors and just a shit platformer, I was terrible at. But when in the big sort of outdoor brawling spaces where you've just got to get somewhere, you're being chased, that's where it really shines.
Yeah, and also something I want to point out is I don't think I've seen a game that has this aesthetic to it, where it's this dystopian future, but there's no purple and there's no rain. It's nothing like Blade Runner, okay? It's not even sci-fi, but it is because I mean, Portal 2, but Portal 2 hadn't come out yet. Portal 2 hadn't come out yet.
The entirety of the orange box.
Portal 2 is the orange box. Like Half-Life looks like grey and orange, right?
Takes the orange. Portal takes the white. Team Fortress takes the cartoon.
I love just the bit where you're in a room that's like white and red, and you burst through one door, and suddenly it's white and blue, and there's this contrast of colours. It's so sharp and impactful. You're almost like taken away from it, but you have to keep running and going forward. And I like that. I like the colour sense of this world. I think it's incredibly pretty.
If you played like any other game, and you played it a second time,
Harry, I like how I picked like my picks this game on like colour choice.
I can see the colours.
and
10 out of 10.
And like I'm fucking it's colour stupid. Like, is that blue or is it green?
It's got as many colours as Red Faction Guerrilla.
Yes, but they're nicer colours, Jono. They're not browns or shades of brown.
Primary colours are really like good.
Yeah, it's like it hits you. It's contrasting with its blue and reds versus complementing with its blue and reds in Ponyo.
Red Faction though is red versus blue again. Anyway, enough parallels.
A shade of grey that somehow could be confused to be blue.
If you played any other game and you played it more than once, it wouldn't be as rewarding completing it a faster time as if you played.
You'd feel like you're getting less out of it if you just spend less time.
Could you imagine playing what's the game called, Mirror's Edge, and this would be very difficult, but if you played the entire game, you didn't die once, and you literally perfected it like that. Could you imagine how like thrilling and intense the game would be?
Yeah.
You could just literally run.
If I were to ever try speedrunning, I'd do it with this game.
Yeah. Portal 2 would never have that. It never has the speed or agility. It just has the puzzle-solving aspect.
It has the puzzle-solving aspect, but also has like the narrative and like the humour.
Okay, so
to get you through. Whereas this game is essentially like a worse off Portal, because it's not Portal 2, it wasn't out yet. But it just doesn't have the humour. It doesn't have that thing that just tips it over the edge.
But it has the intensity.
Yeah, but in fleeting moments.
Anyway, shall we get on to the scoring?
Those moments are the best bits.
Right, well, I'm gonna set the bar pretty high because I really like how the movement system connects you to that world. How grounded, like grabbing over things, sliding and jumping, wall running and leaping off things. Like the fact that the wall run turn jump is something that feels impossible, and you do it so often that you feel like you can do it in your sleep by the end of the game. And it's something that I wish every game. Like, I saw this in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is a really, like, off tangent. But the fact that it has a climbing system, it makes the game world not feel like a weird 3D polygon that you just walk over. It feels like something you can grab onto, something you can hold and feel and run over. And so I love this game for its momentum, its colour, and not for its story and its combat sections, but, well, EA's influence, you can't win them all. But I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10.
I love how, like, halfway through that it just became a Breath of the Wild review. It's like, so colourful, it's so bold. I'm not sure about the combat system.
No, the combat system in Breath of the Wild is good. Isn't it? It's got a good parry. It's just... Oh yeah, I hate the fact that parries, depending on how they've animated the melee attack, is like way harder. Like the pistol, because it's so far out wide, you can see it much easier.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love the game.
I think we should probably do this in what I'm guessing will be descending order, so Ethan goes next.
So climbing down to street level.
I am. Some of the best parts of the game.
So, like Tony, I really like this game for the exact reasons that he said. I think the storyline it does have cliches, it does have plot holes galore, but I really like how most of the game is centered on uncovering this conspiracy, and towards the end it becomes extremely personal, and it's been this massive build up ever to that exact moment where you find out that actually you've got to basically the aim of the game is to save your sister. And I think that's when it goes from like not slow, but it wasn't like intense as it was until you had to start saving Kate.
It's nice that the main character has like a drive throughout the story. So
sorry.
I guess I like my nano rifle.
We're like summarise but surely the game should start slower and then should get faster towards the end. Surely it should become more intense.
No, I quite like the last level. I think.
Oh yeah, the last level was fun because my favourite part of the game is what the last level.
But even before that, it didn't
run.
feel like the pace changed. I mean, it felt fairly consistent throughout the entire game, and then the last level because there is so many.
Oh no, the boat and the one after. The boat
I'm not a big fan of Chapter 7. But apart from the Celeste mission,
8 is my least favourite.
Which one's 8?
The one where you get the sniper at the end.
Oh yeah, the shard is the last one.
The shard.
Shard. Yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Right.
I like how I'm like personally benefiting. Like, yes, my opinions have been validated.
You're actually the one who's convinced me. Literally, I think the opinions that you gave like in the last 10 minutes are like the ones that have been like, yeah, actually, he's actually absolutely right.
I think it's a really well designed game. I just think everything that's good in it, there's not enough of. The time travel stuff is interesting because I would quite like to go back and play that, but I don't think I'll ever go back and play this game again. I'm glad I've done it because it's like watching fucking Casablanca. You got to do it, but you're never gonna do it again. It's a classic video game. But I think there's a lot of similarities to Portal, as we keep on saying. And the bits which is just pure platforming, 3D platforms don't work. Like first person ones, anyway.
Like 6.
Yeah, first person 3D platforming when it's slow is not good. Okay, so I don't mind it when it's slightly more puzzly, like Portal, or when it's just one of the most unique things I've ever played in terms of just the speed and the momentum and quickly. Like I love the quick LB vault thing to get slightly like a tiny bit quicker. Like those chases, the chases in this game were brilliant, and most of those are the first half of the game. The second half of the game is a lot weaker, and I don't know what I'm going to give it.
Well, we can give you time and do Jono first.
Yeah, I'll do Johnny first because I'm torn between 2 ratings.
All right,
Give
so
it a 0.5.
I'm torn between 3 ratings.
And give it the middle one. That's really easy, Jono. You've got an easy way out.
No. The problem is, I'm like, I liked it when I first got into the game, and then it just completely lost me. I think it's a sort of that's the problem though. I'm not sure if it's because I don't think it's quite in the middle average because it made me feel something.
We're getting on to average.
Yeah, so I don't want to just give it a 5 out of 10. There were bits that I like which would err me towards 6 out of 10, but there are bits that I really don't like which would err me towards 4 out of 10. So I think I'll go. I'll go for the middle one, 5 out of 10. I don't think this game is for me. If I want to do wall running with guns, I'll play Titanfall 2.
Could you imagine?
It comes out like 12 years later.
Oh fuck! I'm really annoyed because I'm torn between 6 and 7. I genuinely don't give a shit where I go. Shall I flip a coin? It literally doesn't matter.
Oh, 6 out of 10.
I think for fairness to the podcast, I'll go 6 out of 10. So then we've got 2 that like it and 2 that like it a little bit less. There you go.
Could you imagine if they made a video game out of the Grand Budapest Hotel? How much Johnny would like that? It'd be like his favourite game of his life.
I don't know, because like
I don't think it would work as a game.
I think I came in liking it more than I've left liking it.
I didn't counter the meaning enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There's a lot of bullshit, but most of the good stuff is really good.
Right, burn. Anyway,
let's try to do Ponyo in 12 minutes.
I mean, I could do Ponyo in 30 seconds. Can I do Ponyo in 30 seconds?
Yeah, right, go.
Okay, Ponyo is made for people who are far younger than me. I felt like it was very visually stunning. I think other Studio Ghibli films I haven't seen will probably engage me more because they'll hook me more and they'll be more interesting. It felt essentially like Finding Nemo, but without any of the plot. It was just it was visually very nice. There's nothing much to it. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I'm going for a piss.
That was 20 seconds. Nicely
done. Ethan, do you want to go?
Yeah, I guess I can.
Summarise what it's about. Actually,
well,
I mean, it's
why don't you summarise it and I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, it's about a boy that finds a mermaid. That's like a little fish thing that wants to be a human, and
perfect.
That's what this film's about.
That's literally the.
It's about how incredibly pretty the ocean is as well, and
the ocean is pretty. Sure is pretty.
So Ethan, you wanna fire your
Ponyo. So I saw this film when I was about 8 years old, and I remember thinking very, very fondly of it. I really liked it, and it was. Terry's absolutely right. It is a very good film. I'm probably going to offend you guys here, but it's a very good film for me if you're like a child, because it has very childish
I
themes.
think that's
There's nothing particularly adult at all.
I think it's just going because we liked it. He feels like
that's basically what I was trying to say. Again, he's absolutely right. The visuals are very stunning. I admire anime so much because I can't imagine the time and effort that people go to draw these things in such complexity and detail, and to make them stand out as well.
So many moving objects in this. When all the anime we've seen through Animedia has been backgrounds with a character that's had its mouth moving slightly. And this has like so many things on screen. Like in the film starts with all these jellyfish that are individually like wobbling.
Yeah, I understand.
It's like well, then later again with the fish running and the water, like the fact that they animated water by hand.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
The flow that the
good.
animation has is brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's superb. It's also the fact that it. Actually, I like this film more talking about it now. The blend between what's completely fictional and what's actually happening in the story is brilliant as well. And I'm talking specifically about the fact the fish that represent the waves of the water is done so well, and the fact that I think my favourite scene in the film is actually when they're driving away from the wave.
And when Ponyo's running on the fish.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got this massive wave trying to catch up with the car, and the boy inside. I can't remember, what's the name character? Suzuki, yeah, exactly.
That wrong.
He's the only one who sees that the waves are fish and that Ponyo's running, whereas the adult just thinks it's a massive wave. I'm probably reading into it a bit too much here, but I like the fact that it's kind of those sorts of things are only something that a child would see, only a child would appreciate.
And there is that disconnect between like the fact that it presents that sort of childlike fantasy, but normally in like kids films, the adults are sort of against it. The adults like hate the fucking kids or whatever. They're like, no, you're an idiot, blah blah blah. But in this one, the mum is, or Lisa, I'm not really sure of the relation, to be honest, is like such like a strong, like supportive lead character. She's like semi-aware of the weird world she's been in right up until the end where she fucking meets a mermaid. And she's like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to support you through this. I'm going to take care of you and this kid we've just found that you tell me is a goldfish.
Yeah, she never
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, she never goes, oh well, of course she's not a goldfish. She just goes, I guess so.
She just goes with the flow, which is what this film is about.
Every character in this film is like supported. There's no fucking. And what are they trying to prevent? Like, it turns out at the end, it's like the moon is coming. It's Majora's Mask. But like, that was introduced like 5 minutes before the film ended.
I mean,
I like towards the beginning of the film, you've got the sorcerer.
Establish that at the start.
But no, I mean we've been.
And then there's some tension.
I mean, we've been seeing. We knew that some weird nature thing was happening because that's what happens when that thing, you know. He had that whole little bit where can't let a creature go in here or the world will fucking end.
Yeah, but I thought that guy was just being paranoid.
Yeah, he was expositioning. Did you not notice
to be
that?
Fair,
By the clear way
this is
he
very
was
clearly like if we foreshadowed that something's going to happen. For 4-year-olds, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah. And then you've got.
They say, I hope a creature doesn't come in to the reserve of magical energy. Boy, I better fix that vault door over there.
So was that guy the villain?
I guess I'll go away for a few minutes.
Because at the end he wasn't though.
Yeah. I guess it's more of like a.
I think you've literally just highlighted my issue with the film. I think because of the fact that its main target audience is very, very young children. They're susceptible to anything.
It's too young to understand what like a fucking like story is. It's like what's the plot?
Exactly.
It's like this is for children who can't yet say the word baddie.
So every piece of foreshadowing in this film to people like us is extremely predictable. Like if you say that, like
I was being a bit funny.
Okay, well that's definitely going to.
I was making a meme out of it, but
I know. But you're still absolutely right. It's because like I said, children are susceptible to anything. I mean, they don't pick up on the smallest of, not even the smallest of things, the largest of things. I mean, it was so obvious that vault door was going to be open and that Ponyo was going to have something to do with it.
I fucking love when she comes out of that vault door and she's glowing yellow and surrounded by mini Ponyos. It's like crossing around like fucking jackknife riding a fish. It's incredible.
The
It's a masterpiece.
The best films for young people, though, are films that like are complete surface level and are engaging for young audiences, but then have that extra layer of depth and intrigue. Because if you're a parent, you've got to watch something with your kids. You want something out of it. You want some level of it, and that's what Pixar do so well.
Yeah.
And that's what this film just completely lacks, because it is
No, I
just
think-
it's just a very pretty desktop screensaver.
Yeah, I like the I was going to say undertones, and then I was going to say overtones. But I like the tones that it has.
You averaged it out.
And I don't know. Just what was the point I was going to make?
What's the point the film's going to make?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Oh yeah,
Drowning your
don't
mother
think it has
is
to.
bad. Good.
Yeah, well, what is the point? Was there some sort of
there
environmental message
have
that we
to be?
completely...
Yes,
I mean, clearly
there was
there-
a
Were
guy
those
who was
grandmas?
like,
There
Oh
was-
yeah, there was a guy like humans are bad because they do some littering and just never bring it up again.
yeah, it was like a lot of themes that does do like pop up occasionally. though.
You'd hate it more though if that was like the big thing at the end was like stop polluting. You know,
I wouldn't mind if they established that message early on, and then that message could continue, because then there's a narrative thread. There's something there that is established at the start
think it is
and
just-
carries you through the film.
I think
other than it looks nice.
I think it is just
It
the
looks nice.
Ponyo and Sosuke though.
It looks
Just
nice.
they
It's
want to
their
be
relationship.
together,
Yeah,
and
but
it's the
5
power of
years old.
love. It's magic.
It's Boyhood, but for children.
And
It's
Boyhood
my
is
thing.
shit.
And I really like Boyhood, so
Yeah, it's not for me.
Boyhood was just
Yeah.
the biggest
But it's-
gimmick of the film.
I feel that I don't know. It
We're not
I
really
don't want to go
Boyhood.
into Boyhood too much, but just every other film is kind of I don't know. It just a usual story arc. It just feels like it has to have and latches onto that. So nothing else goes for it. For me, normal films feel a bit more gimmicky. This feels more like we're just gonna do life.
Yeah, but there's a reason that there's like things that every film does. It's because like every film needs it. It's like I'm going to do a film without a story.
If you
No, you-
I want the villains to win in this one.
yes, but I mean,
sorry.
okay, that's a separate argument that we're having when this podcast ends. But Harry's right. I mean, Boyhood's what 2 hours and a half long. And
Why are we slagging off Boyhood?
because I want to. There's literally
And this
no
is way
storyline
shorter than
other
Boyhood,
okay,
and
I'm
also
sure
for
it's from
kids.
this kid's life when he's 8 years old, and then one where he's 9 years
It's
old.
a kid
where he's
growing
10.
up, and it's the relationships with the people he has around him and how it changes.
But then I don't think they're really that complex.
Yeah,
It-
it's
it
well,
does
it's meant to be
feel
complex. You
Yeah,
need
it's
something
just-
to be
it's-
complex to enjoy.
It's like, do you need it to be like, oh, he's secretly this big?
Secretly an FBI agent.
Yeah. You don't.
No, you
I think the
kidding,
problem
we're
this
kidding.
film has is it lacks any basic narrative structure, which
I feel like
as formulaic as it becomes is necessary to fucking engage a child,
No,
other than just showing them a cool thing and going like,
it doesn't have a storyline, but I disagree with you. I think it does have structure and it
Right.
does have acts.
Yeah,
acts, and
you
there
can
is
definitely tell like
Yeah,
there's the
exactly.
intro where the sorcerer's underwater.
Yeah, and
It comes with the thread through. It's a story told mostly through its world, to be honest, of how it like shows this incredible
if you're gonna do that, then just don't have the dialogue. If you're gonna
watch it
gonna-
without subtitles,
yeah,
Harry.
if you're
Problem
gonna
solved.
already have it like with basically like nothing, you might as well just go full circle. Like if you're doing no story, have no dialogue,
could you imagine?
have no fucking conflict, have nothing. Just have some fishes that become waves and some fucking thing that you give to people.
I mean,
that
there is still because
I think it is like a relationship and character story though about being young though, because
Yeah.
it's like the fact that you can see how like true to being a 4-year-old or a baby the characters are. Like the fact that the baby you see just cries all the time, and the fact that like as soon as a minor inconvenience happens to one of the lead characters, they start crying. It's like
Ponyo,
this
no,
is
because then Ponyo uses her magic Deus Ex Machina power, and that solves every issue that every character has.
well,
Which
that's just
you
not
have
true
to give up
because
your powers when you become a human.
she couldn't save the old lady's legs, right? And also it was the fact that her power was weakening, and like that's why it's like the arc of she becomes more like a human and less like a human as she gets more and less magical energy, and then right at the end she gives up all the magic, becomes a human. And I really like the ending bit as well, where she just
Yeah.
jumps out of the bucket, uses the magic.
Most of it is kind of like an adventure film, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is. It's an adventure film for 4 years old, for 4-year-olds. And just because it's not really for you doesn't make it a bad film. I mean, it's good for its target
In
audience,
terms
but
of
it's just
being,
not
in
good
terms
for
of
an
being a
18-year-old.
film, which is like visually stunning. I mean, it is. It's just there's nothing more.
see, I still think it is just a good film, not just for 4-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean I watched it now and I'm glad I did, and I hadn't seen it when I was
I
younger.
There are lots of lovely, charming scenes. There's enough of a thing. I mean, because she's gone off land because she really wants to be a human, and
She's a
the
fish
people
out
of
of
the sea want to bring her back. That is conflict. That is a plot. It's just because there's no real, like, I don't know, not really a big
there's
twist
no
to it. It's
like sense of danger, which is probably what you would want in a film. People who are watching this like, God, I really want everyone to just fucking drown. Is what everyone was saying in the film.
That was like only him. I was like,
That was
Harry,
only me
this is a
taking the
kids'
piss
film.
out.
They're not dead.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
the fact that like there is just water that completely floods this town, and that no one
and
even
it's
Can
a
you see the
thinks
coins?
for a minute, like,
Did you see
oh,
the groins? They just weren't working.
It's a
no
bit-
one even for a minute like worries about the danger of anyone. They're just like, oh, everyone will be fine,
Well,
and then they are fine.
They do. They're like, don't drive across this road. It's being
Yeah.
flooded.
Yeah,
And there's that cool scene
the
where
adults
the
do.
water-
And then his mum basically goes out. She's like, I'm going to see the old people, and then literally everything's flooded the next day, and like he doesn't go like, oh, where's my mum?
Yeah, but surely you're talking
No, he
about
does.
the audience.
He cries.
The audience doesn't feel a sense of danger, and that's what you're talking about, because the audience is what matters here, not the actual film itself. It's what the audience take away from it. And if the audience don't feel a sense of
Yeah,
danger,
it's-
then what piques their interest?
I
It
take
presents
more
them
away
more
from it
like-
if I was high.
Sorry?
I take more away from it if I was
You
high.
should have a trauma session, guys. It presents like the mystical and wonder sort of sense of the ocean and water in this film. It's not meant to see like the ocean as this deep and dangerous thing. It's about how like pretty it can be, about how like calming it can be, or healing.
I enjoy spending the first minute underwater, and none of the rest of the film until the very end.
You have a boat. Anyway.
Did you not enjoy any Ponyo moments? I was very, I don't know, I found it
I
challenging.
Ponyo's in the
I like the
house.
first 10 minutes of Ponyo before it gets all like fucking weird.
I mean, tell me, Tony, you've seen Princess Mononoke, right? Princess Mononoke is miles better than this film, because Princess Mononoke has characters and it has story, and they're all really, really well
I'm
detailed.
sure. If all I'm saying is, if you take what this film already, I mean, for a film that has no story, 5 out of 10 is good. If you take what this film has visually and just stick any fucking like tropey generic story on top of this, it's a good film.
I think this is better for not being a trippy generic
No,
story.
it's not
though.
though. It's just like it's an inconsequential sequence of cool things.
So
Originality and being unique is good.
Yeah,
Mm.
but like not with your fucking structure. You can have like a visual style or like these cool things that happen, but at the end you need to tie it all together with
Yes.
3 acts.
But this
Yes,
has tied it all
you're
together,
forgetting
Harry.
that this
It has a
film wasn't
first
made
act.
for you, Harry. It was made for 4-year-olds and Johnny and Tony. That's what it was made for. And they enjoyed it, and that's what counts.
Yeah.
Right, so
Fair enough. It's just I don't think it's just anything special. I
The-
think the other Ghibli films are better.
the other anime film I've seen is Akira, and I prefer this to Akira. I feel,
Are you serious?
yeah, Akira like goes nowhere and just it
That's
jumps
not
the
even
shark.
true. Akira does have a
This has a
storyline,
jumping
though.
shark.
No, but Akira
Psycho
actually has a
Six.
beginning and a middle and end, and things.
It has a beginning, has a middle, it has some weird flesh monster.
Okay, that's very true. That is very,
this
very
has
true.
a beginning, then nothing. So
The ending to Akira is the most pretentious, nonsensical thing you will ever watch.
I'm
That's a
definitely
very good
going
point.
to agree with Johnny in that it definitely uses. It has its own way of telling a story.
Hmm.
That it isn't necessarily about there's a thing we need to do. It's more about this journey, and it's about losing yourself in this sense of
Alright.
wonder.
the journey will be better if you know what the journey is.
About
So
it.
if-
It is.
It's about water.
It's about friendship.
About
It's
Ponyo
a-
becoming a human.
It's about the connection between land and sea, and they've just personified that as an actual human and the relationship between them, and it's good. It's an adventure film.
It's really
There's
not
literally a
like-
part where they go sailing through like a swampy lagoon, right? And there's stuff actually does happen in
Yeah.
that swampy lagoon. They run into people, new things happen,
But-
and yeah, the baby's a bit weird. But apart from that, I mean, it
You
happens.
can't be like, oh, see, Ponyo personifies it's about land and sea and the relationship between them, and then like a minute later go, it's for 4-year-olds. It's like no,
Well, yeah.
Well, it
simple
does.
as that.
It
about-
can have
it
like.
doesn't have the depth. It's very. I think you're right when you say it's for 4-year-olds.
Well, it is, but I still think that it has. Well, I think that's probably because you two have convinced me a little bit. But it literally has something that resembles a human coming out of the water, meaning something that's a human on land, and the relationship between
Yeah,
them.
and then
And yeah, it's very childish and very 4-year-old,
while
but it's still.
while it's coming up, it causes the flooding, which is, I guess, the primary narrative conflict until the end, where they're like, oh no, it's actually the moon crashing into Earth. because this is a Zelda game now.
Which has caused the sea levels to rise. That's why everything is flooded, Harry.
Yeah, but that's not the reason why everything's flooded. Everything's flooded because she fucking came up and her fucking little baby's brothers or
Yeah,
sisters
because the
decided
release.
to flood everything.
Yeah,
But
it actually has this really
The
deep
laughing,
like thing
no,
of
it's
like
true.
it has.
She causes the flood. Why
But look,
would
it's
we?
anyway. It's because she
when
goes
he says
into
things like
the
this,
thing.
it's actually hard for me to defend this
Ethan,
film.
because if you think about it, it actually does have a thread in it. It also references life in the fact that it's like almost like a historic sense, right? The fact that life comes out of water, becomes human. At the start, he's talking about the magic world, and he says something about this will cause an explosion of life equivalent to the Cambrian period, which is like fucking dinosaurs on there. And when the water starts level rising, and you have the great scene of the boat that's traveling over, and you see all the fishes below. It's not just today's fish; it's ancient fish.
Do you remember the part where it was
And
like,
it's-
that's a ship's graveyard? It was like, it just definitely wasn't.
And it's the fact that in the past the moon was closer to the Earth, and it led to sea levels rising.
And then on the 5th day of life, the moon crashes into the earth. Unless you fucking
And then-
go back in time to the start of the cycle, carrying all your items. I'd give Majora's Mask an 8 out of 10. What do you guys think of Ponyo?
I've simultaneously defended like so many points for this film, even though I don't really like it as much as you two. No, and I don't know. Come back to me.
It's just
Come
like,
back to me.
it's
I mean,
just
George, you wanna
nothing to me, this film. I can't have an emotion towards it. It's just like, it's so harmless. I can't hate it.
The narrative in it is an integral part of the film, but when you watch something that really is just it's just so beautiful and so well drawn, you just can't you have to appreciate it. You have to say, well, that's very good.
Yeah, I like the visuals. I like the art style a lot.
Yeah, so
That's all I like. 5 out of 10.
I'd give Ponyo an 8 out of 10 because
Mirror's Edge is better than Ponyo.
it's just not.
Yeah, it totally is. I wish Jackknife was in Ponyo.
Oh, God.
Ponyo had to
Could you
chase Jackknife across some roof.
No, if Polly just comes out of the scene and does this, just like
Draws the two pistols. Oh
Ponyo
man.
makes me like Valhalla more.
Well, I guess I have that to
Because
thank.
Valhalla has no ending as well.
Valhalla has the conflict of can you pay for rent, and you didn't, so shut up.
Valhalla has the conflict of like, I want to fuck my boss, which goes nowhere.
At least it's not your sister. Anyway,
you
Okay.
give that an 8. I mean, it's just a kind of awe, really.
It's just like not that.
It's just well drawn and well animated, and that's the film.
Thank you. That's what I've been saying for the last 10 minutes.
I love how this is going to become my catchphrase, but I prefer this to Inception.
I mean, that's just not true.
Yeah.
No. He's right. He does prefer this to Inception.
Yeah, that's
Whether it's better than Inception is a very, very different matter.
Ponyo is better than Boyhood.
No, Boyhood's
Yeah.
I prefer Boyhood to
Boyhood's better
Ponyo.
than Ponyo. But
Yeah.
even
So you
Boyhood's
put Boyhood
so
to
right.
Inception.
Yeah,
Oh, this is just,
Boyhood's a
this is
Boyhood's a
network.
film that makes you think things.
It makes you think, why did they make the dad a drunk? It was obviously just like, they obviously heard my review of Ponyo and like, we need some more pointless narrative conflict in this film.
It's just, I don't know. It's just because it's life rather than a film, and I like that anyway.
That's love.
Okay.
What would other people give it?
Ethan, has your
Would you give it
opinion
an 8 out of 10?
matured?
No, it's really you have to regress because only 4-year-olds can watch this.
What
film.
else would you rate an 8 out of 10?
Right.
Just in general, it doesn't have to be on this podcast. What would you think is another 8 out of 10 film? Just so I can have a comparison as well. I know you think Inception is worse than this film, but
Inglourious Basterds.
God.
Wait, well, Inglourious Basterds is 7.
Oh my God, do you think
Um,
Ponyo is better than Inglourious Basterds?
Yeah, and better than John Wick.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, a lot of things
yes.
are better than John Wick.
I think
mean,
it's better
shit.
than.
John Wick is the best.
John Wick's
10
so
film.
shit.
I think it's better than Looper. I'm surprised seeing
I'm
how
not
much I
gonna
gave
disagree
Looper.
with that.
though.
How much did you give Looper?
I gave it an 8.
That's a
I
lot.
feel like that's a 7 in retrospect. Anyway,
Like, you
Yeah,
can't
we-
change
uh,
scores.
We're not going back to all our previous podcasts and changing our scores. We're fucking reviewing this one because we're already running over. So
Yeah.
just cut the shit and review it, Ethan O'Brien, please.
Has everyone rated it?
You go first.
No, you go first.
Are you gonna
After you.
are you gonna base it on my review?
Would you give it a 5 out of 10?
Yeah, I did.
It's higher than that. It's just not an 8 though. 8's
Well, it's definitely not an 8. I'll say that as much because because this film,
Wait,
as
does
we've all,
Johnny like it more than you?
we'll see. It's definitely, again, we've all said that it's incredibly visually impressive, but it's a disservice to just only say that is the enjoyment you get out of it. It's more than that. It has an incredible colour palette. It shows the underwater world in this incredibly beautiful way, in the fluidity of water. The fact when Sosuke is at the beach and the water comes up to the ocean, it's these weird blobby monsters that are crashing over rocks, and everything has this sense of weight and motion to it that is incredible.
But all of these are great points, but this is still talking about the animation of the film, the actual design and the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, but
that's the thing
it's
with
more
animation.
than just
The
saying
animation shows the plot. It's not like like more sort of Western films where it's. I mean, you still have the way you organise the shots. It's a bit more what you're trying to get across, but it's a lot more metaphorical. I feel with films like films like this.
Because there's three. Well, it's
But that's what the adults get out of it, is the metaphorical things it represents, and the children get out the friendly children. Ponyo is this charming character.
The story is told in this abstract way because it's easier. It's about losing yourself in this sense of wonder. It's about how the 3-act structure isn't necessarily bad guy's not the fucking doohickey and he's gonna whatever. How most story acts are. It's about the environment of how it's underwater for the prologue. It's the beach and the school for the beginning act, and then at the end it's mirrored where you see what the story, the land you've come to know, what it looks like when it's completely flooded and underwater, surrounded by floating dinosaurs.
But why?
Because why tell any story? It's this journey. There's this difference, and you see it, and it's this experience of watching this world, and this journey between Ponyo and the kid as well. Because that's again probably what drives it as well. I like the ending. That's again something you could clearly grasp onto and say that's a character motivation. Ponyo likes ham, and she wants to be a human. That's enough, right? A story doesn't need more than that, and this proves that.
To say it has no storyline is unfair. It does have a storyline. I just don't think it's fascinating at all.
I think
there's nothing that keeps me watching it other than the fact that I've got to watch it for the podcast.
There needs to be a hook. You need any hook, anything.
And the only hook is the fact that
it
it's
looks
very
nice.
well animated.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
It looks stunning. But it's a fucking desktop screensaver.
Although I say that, but 8-year-old me loved this film. So
yeah, it's a film that I would probably would be one of my favourite films if I watched it when I was really young, and would go back to watch it. So it's probably not the best environment to be like a bunch of adults.
I think it's also because I prefer a Studio Ghibli look at films with more darker and adult themes.
Yeah, but this is the guy trying to
diversify his audience, isn't it? Like he's not doing the same thing over and over again, is he? Like other studios do. This guy's trying to reach different groups of people.
I think we just need to quickly get a score for stuff now. We've
had
too many arguments about other things.
I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
This is going back and forth about what people want out of films, but I was glad that I had the chance to lose myself in this film, and in a way that no other films really do. So it's a 9 out of 10.
Johnny, if you think this film is better than House Weeping Castle, I'm literally gonna slit my throat.
That's really dark. That came out of nowhere.
We need some darkness and bleakness in this podcast, don't we? When we're just looking at Ponyo, which is just happiness.
Yeah, because why don't people want that? Why do people feel that they need
you can
like to see the flaws in life.
You can get all of that in Pixar films, which are better.
Man, this is the best kids film that came out this year. I'm saying that as we end the podcast.
No,
wait, spin the wheel. Spin the wheel.
And we haven't finished. And also, as a counterpoint, I hated Wall-E when I was 8. I liked it when I was older.
What did you rate this film?
9 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, I'd give it a 10 out of 10 if I saw it when I was young.
Speaking of 10 out of 10, we've got a 10 out of 10 podcast coming up for 2007 when I pick 2 of my favourite things, and if you try and critique them, I will tell you why you're wrong. Much like the 2011 podcast was.
If one of those things is There Will Be Blood, you won't be the only one defending it.
There Will Be Blood is the film. I'm really looking forward to revisiting this film. I'm really looking forward to it. And my game is Call of Duty 4, which is probably the pinnacle of fucking video games. The game's so good, it's ruined every other game since it then. It's the reason fucking microtransactions are a problem. It's the reason we have multiplayer in the way we do. It's very much the Halo CE of the Xbox 360 generation, and it's also got my like a guilty pleasure of a campaign, which I fucking love. So yep, Call of Duty 4 is my game, and there will be loads of my film.
Grey,
And we're gonna have
bleakness. I can't wait.
We're gonna have about actually it's a lot of green in that game.
We've got to try and work in as many quotes from There Will Be Blood as possible.
We've got to try and work in
That
as many
well.
quotes from COD 4 as possible. But yeah, 2007 is gonna have a lot of honorable mentions because it's a fucking banger of a year for games.
Anyway, I think it's time for us all to get out. There are blues on the wire. We've got to run through that red door, and then we've got to fall and hear the death crunch.